I still remember the weight of that morning. It felt heavy, like a quiet sadness sitting on my shoulders. When I placed my office ID card on my boss's desk, he looked at it, confused. He asked, "What is this?" I said softly, "I'm leaving. Today is my last day." He blinked. "What? You didn't tell anyone?" I shook my head. I didn't think anyone would care. And for a moment, the room was completely still. No ringing phones, no typing, no voices in the hallway. Just silence. His face changed, slowly, like he didn't know how to react. And in his eyes, for the first time in months, I saw concern. Real concern. He said, "Can we talk for a minute?" But it was too late. The decision was already made. I had already spent too many days crying quietly in the bathroom. Too many nights staring at the ceiling, wishing someone at work would simply say, "Are you okay?" I turned toward the door. My heart was beating fast, but my voice stayed calm. I need to take care of myself. That was the day everything changed. For me and for them. But the truth is, the story didn't start there. It started months before, when I was still trying, still hoping, still giving everything I had. Before everything went wrong, I used to love my mornings. My alarm would ring at 6:30 a.m. I'd stretch, open my window, and feel the fresh air. Sometimes I even said to myself, "Today will be a good day." It sounds simple, but I truly believed it. I lived alone in a small apartment, but it felt cozy. A warm cup of coffee, soft sunlight on my kitchen table, the smell of toast, those were my peaceful moments. I liked my job back then. Not because it was easy, actually, it was the opposite. It was busy, sometimes chaotic. But I liked helping people. I liked solving problems. And I liked the feeling of finishing a long day knowing I did my best. When I first joined the company, my team welcomed me warmly. My coworker Sam used to say, "If you need anything, just ask." And my boss, Mr. Collins, once told me, "You're a fast learner. We're lucky to have you." I worked in operations, which means I helped coordinate projects, supported clients, handled documents, and basically made sure things didn't fall apart. And honestly, I was good at it. But being good at something can be a blessing and a curse. Because when people know you will always finish the work, they start giving you more, and more, and more. It began slowly. First, a small extra task from a coworker, then a slightly larger one from a different team, then responsibilities that weren't even part of my job. At first, I felt proud. I told myself, "They trust me. This means I'm valuable." But little by little, things changed. I remember one Monday morning. I arrived early, as usual. The office smelled like fresh carpet and coffee. I placed my bag on my chair, turned on my computer, and stretched my fingers, ready to type. Sam walked past my desk and said, "Hey, can you handle the client report for me? I forgot to finish it." I smiled. "Sure, no problem." It seemed harmless. Then Julia from marketing came. "Can you review this file for me? You're faster than me." I nodded again. "Okay, I can do it." By lunchtime, my own tasks were untouched. Everything I did that morning was for someone else. Still, I didn't complain. I liked helping, and I believed that kindness would come back to me. But slowly, almost invisibly, my coworkers stopped saying, "Thank you." They stopped asking gently. They started expecting. Sometimes the tone changed from, "Can you help me?" to, "I'll give this to you." One time, I told my coworker, "I'm a little busy. Can we share this task?" She sighed and said, "You're better at it anyway. It's easier if you do it." I remember staring at my computer screen, wondering when things had shifted, wondering why my empty lunch breaks and late evenings didn't matter to anyone. At home, I would drop my bag on the floor, collapse onto my bed, and close my eyes. My body felt exhausted, but my mind stayed awake, replaying everything. I kept telling myself, "It's just a phase. It will get better." But deep inside, something was slowly breaking. One night, while washing dishes, I whispered to myself, "Why does no one see me?" I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to run away. I wanted things to be fair. I wanted respect. I wanted someone, anyone, to notice that I was drowning. But the truth is, nothing changed. And then came the day that pushed me over the edge. The disrespectful day that made me realize I was completely invisible to them. That day, everything became clear. And everything started to fall apart. The breaking point didn't come suddenly. It came quietly, like a small crack in glass, one that spreads and spreads until the whole thing collapses. It started with a simple meeting. That morning, the office was cold. Not cold in temperature, but cold in feeling. People walked around quickly, papers in their hands, stress on their faces. I tried to smile at a few coworkers, but they barely looked up. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. My to-do list was long, but manageable. At least, that's what I thought. At 10 a.m., my boss walked out of his office. "Everyone, meeting room in 5 minutes." We all got up slowly, carrying our notebooks. I sat near the corner of the table, as always. Mr. Collins began, "We need to talk about productivity. Some of our numbers are dropping. I want everyone to take more responsibility." Then he looked straight at me. "You especially need to be faster." My heart dropped. I looked around the table. No one met my eyes. Not even Sam. I swallowed and said gently, "I finished all my reports early this week." He shrugged. "Well, then maybe you're not taking enough work." I felt a soft, sharp pain in my chest. Like something inside me was shrinking. I wanted to say, "I already do the work of 3 people." But the words stayed in my throat. Instead, I said, "I'll try my best." The meeting ended, and everyone left quickly. I stayed in my seat a few seconds longer, holding my notebook so tightly my fingers hurt. That was the first clue. Not just that they didn't appreciate me, but that they didn't even see what I did. Another clue came a few days later. Julia rushed to my desk, waving papers. "Can you finish these by 3 p.m.? They're urgent." I looked at my screen. 3 deadlines already blinked in bright red. I said softly, "Julia, I'm already working on 2 urgent tasks." She rolled her eyes. "Come on. You're the fastest. Just do it. I took a slow breath. I can try, but I might not finish everything. She replied, You always do. Don't start complaining now. Her tone cut through me like a small knife, not deep enough to destroy me, but sharp enough to hurt. After she left, Sam walked by. He asked, Hey, can you cover my client call at 2? I have to step out. I stared at him. No, Sam, I really can't. He gave me a confused look. You always help. What's wrong today? What's wrong? Everything. But all I said was, I'm tired. He smiled a little. You're always tired. You'll be fine. And he walked away. That sentence stayed with me all day. You'll be fine. As if my feelings didn't matter. As if I was a machine they all depended on. Not a human being with limits. Later that night, when the office was almost empty, I stayed behind to finish the tasks others had dropped on me. The lights overhead hummed. The air felt heavy. My eyes burned from staring at the screen. I massaged my temples and whispered, You can do it, just to keep myself going. Around 8:30 p.m., I finally packed my things. On the way out, the cleaning lady smiled softly at me. You work too much, she said in simple English. I laughed weakly. Yes, I know. She touched my arm gently. Take care of yourself. Her words made my eyes sting. It felt strange that the only person who saw my pain was someone who didn't even work in my department. The next morning, things got worse. I was eating breakfast at my desk, a small sandwich, when I heard my name. I didn't mean to listen, but the voices were loud. Julia said, She's always so slow these days. Sam replied, Yeah, I don't know what happened. She used to be helpful. Another coworker added, Maybe she's getting lazy. Lazy. The word hit me like a slap. They had no idea how many extra tasks I completed, how many times I stayed late, how many responsibilities I carried quietly so they wouldn't fall behind. I sat there, staring at my sandwich, feeling like something inside me was breaking. I whispered to myself, I'm not lazy. I'm just tired. But no one heard me. No one ever heard me. The final clue, the moment I realized I was invisible, happened during a project emergency. We had a major client deliverable due by the end of the day. Everyone was stressed. People ran around the office, asking for help. I was already working on 3 tasks, but Julia still came to me. She said, You need to handle the client file too. I said calmly, I don't have the capacity today. She snapped, Don't make excuses. You're the only one who never says no. In that moment, everything became painfully clear. They didn't respect me because I never set boundaries. They didn't value me because I made everything seem easy. They didn't appreciate me because I never complained. I stood up slowly. My voice was low but steady. That's the problem, Julia. No one ever listens when I say I'm tired. She blinked, surprised, but just shrugged and said, We're all tired. And she walked away. For the first time, I realized it didn't matter how hard I worked. It didn't matter how kind I was. It didn't matter how much I sacrificed. To them, I was just the person who would always say yes. And that was the moment the idea of quitting appeared. Small, quiet, but powerful. The idea of quitting stayed inside me for days. Not loud, not angry, just quiet, like a soft whisper that wouldn't go away. Every morning, I would stand in front of the mirror before work, holding my toothbrush, staring at my tired eyes. I would ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I hurting myself like this? And every evening, I would return home exhausted, drop my bag on the floor, and sit on my couch without even turning on the lights. It wasn't just physical tiredness. It was emotional. A slow, heavy sadness that came from being unseen, unappreciated, unheard. But the moment that truly opened my eyes, the emotional reveal, came on a Wednesday afternoon. It was a day I will never forget. That day started like any other. Busy, noisy, a little chaotic. I was working on 3 open tasks when Mr. Collins called me into his office. He didn't look angry, but he didn't look warm either. He said, "I need to talk to you about your performance." My stomach tightened. I sat down and tried to smile politely. "Okay, sure. What happened?" He sighed and leaned back in his chair. "That client report you submitted yesterday, it wasn't complete." I blinked. "The one Julia asked for? I only filled the parts she gave me." He shook his head. "She said she asked you to finish everything." My heart began to beat faster. "That's not true," I said quietly. "She only gave me half the file." He looked at me, expression unreadable. "Julia says she asked you to take full responsibility. She said you agreed." I felt like someone punched the air out of my lungs. "No," I repeated softly. "That didn't happen." He tapped his pen on the desk. "Well, we can't keep having these issues. You need to be more careful." Careful. I worked harder than anyone on the team. I stayed late almost every evening. I helped everyone, even when I was drowning. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I felt defeated. He ended the conversation with a simple, cold sentence. "Please improve." I stood up slowly. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. I walked out of the office, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I walked straight to the restroom, locked the door behind me, and leaned against the sink. My reflection looked strange, like someone I didn't recognize. I whispered, "Why is this happening to me?" And then, something unexpected happened. I heard 2 voices just outside the restroom door. Julia's voice first. She said, laughing softly, "Did you hear? He talked to her." Finally. Another coworker replied, "Good. She does too much but still complains. Maybe now she'll work harder." They laughed. The sound cut into me, sharp, painful, unforgettable. In that moment, something inside me broke. Quietly, calmly, completely. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. Instead, I felt a strange, peaceful clarity. A voice inside me whispered, "This place doesn't deserve you." I walked back to my desk and sat down. My mind felt empty, but my heart felt strangely light. For the first time, the idea wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a decision. Later that afternoon, I tried one last thing. I walked to Sam's desk. I said softly, "Sam, can we talk?" He didn't look up at first. "Make it quick. I'm busy." I swallowed. I feel like nobody sees how much I do. He finally turned to me with a confused expression. "What do you mean? We all work hard." "I know," I said, "but sometimes I feel invisible." He shrugged. "You overthink things. Don't be so sensitive." Sensitive. That word hurt more than all the others. Not lazy. Not slow. Not forgetful. Sensitive. As if caring about myself was a weakness. I walked back to my desk slowly, each step heavier than the last. When I sat down, I looked at my computer screen. The endless emails, the blinking task reminders, the unfinished work. I looked around the noisy office. People laughing. People talking. People asking for help. People ignoring me unless they needed something. And inside me, a small voice said again, "You deserve better." It was the first time I truly believed it. That evening, I stayed late again. But it felt different. I wasn't staying because I had to. I was staying to think, to breathe, to make a choice. The office was quiet. Just me and the soft humming of the lights. I opened a blank document on my computer. My hands trembled as I typed the words. "This is my official resignation letter." I stared at the sentence for a long time. My heart beat hard in my chest, but it wasn't fear this time. It was freedom. I finished the letter, saved it, and emailed it to myself. Not to my boss. Not yet. I wanted one more night to think. I walked out of the office and took one long, deep breath outside. The sky was dark, but the cool air felt clean. For the first time in months, my shoulders relaxed. I whispered to myself, "You're finally choosing yourself." And I knew tomorrow would be the day everything changed. The next morning felt strangely calm. I woke up earlier than usual, not because of stress, but because my mind felt clear. My room was quiet. The sunlight was soft. The air felt gentle on my skin. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel dread in my stomach. I sat at the edge of my bed and whispered to myself, "Today, you choose yourself." I made coffee slowly, watching the steam rise from the cup. Usually, I drank it quickly while rushing around the apartment. But not today. Today, I wanted to feel every small moment, to remember what peace felt like. After getting dressed, I took a deep breath and opened the folder on my phone. My resignation letter was there. Short, simple, honest. I read it again. "I am resigning due to consistent overload, lack of support, and declining mental well-being. Thank you for the opportunity." I didn't write anything dramatic. I didn't blame anyone by name. I didn't express anger. I just told the truth in the simplest words possible. Before leaving my apartment, I whispered, "Be brave." At work, things looked normal. People were typing, talking, gossiping, moving around. but something felt different inside me. A quiet confidence, maybe. A sense of control I hadn't felt in months. I walked to my desk and placed my bag gently on the floor. Then I opened my computer and took a deep breath. My finger hovered over the send button. It felt like the world went silent for a second. Click. Message sent. No going back. I closed my laptop softly and leaned back in my chair, feeling a rush of relief wash through me. It was warm, calm, steady. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want drama. I didn't want attention. I just wanted peace. Not even 10 minutes passed before Mr. Collins walked out of his office, his eyes scanning the room. He looked confused, almost anxious. "Can I speak with you? Now." His tone wasn't angry, just urgent. I nodded and followed him inside. He closed the door behind us. He held his tablet in his hand. My resignation letter was pulled up on the screen. He asked, "What is this?" I looked at him calmly. "My resignation." He shook his head. "You didn't talk to me first." "I tried," I said quietly. "Many times." He stared at me, not with authority, but with something that looked like guilt. "What happened?" he asked. "Why would you leave like this?" I looked down at my hands for a moment before speaking. "I work so hard," I said softly. "Every day. I stay late. I help everyone. I take responsibilities that aren't mine, but no one sees it." He opened his mouth, but I continued gently. "When something goes wrong, people blame me. When things go right, no one even remembers I worked on it." He looked down at his desk, quiet. I added, "I feel invisible here, and I'm tired of feeling invisible." He breathed out slowly, like my words hit him somewhere deep. "I didn't know you felt this way," he finally said. I looked at him. "You never asked." He froze. It wasn't meant to hurt him, but it was the truth. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, "Please reconsider." I smiled sadly. "I can't." He rubbed his forehead. "We need you." I shook my head gently. "You need my work, but you never needed me." For a moment he didn't speak. His eyes softened in a way I had never seen before. He whispered, "I'm sorry." Those two words, simple, small, but so powerful. Still, I knew it wasn't enough to stay. I stood up. "I wish you all the best." When I walked out of his office, the hallway suddenly felt brighter. I took my ID card from my pocket, the same one I had worn every day for years, and I placed it neatly on his desk before stepping away. A part of me felt sad. Another part felt free, completely free. But the emotional journey wasn't finished yet, because when I went back to my desk and started packing my things into a small bag, my coworkers noticed. Sam walked over first. He asked, "What are you doing?" I looked at him calmly. "I'm leaving." He laughed a little. "Leaving for lunch? Already?" I shook my head. "No, leaving the company." His smile dropped instantly. "Wait, what? Why? You didn't tell me." I looked at him with gentle honesty. You never asked how I was doing. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. He didn't know what to say. Julia approached next. She stared at my bag. Is this a joke? No, I said. It's not. She crossed her arms. You didn't discuss this with the team. I replied softly. The team never discussed anything with me except work. Her face reddened. For once, she had no comeback. And that was when the rest of them realized something deeper had been happening while they weren't paying attention. My leaving wasn't sudden. It was the result of months of silence they never noticed. For the first time, they saw me, really saw me. When the news finally sank in that I was actually leaving, the office atmosphere changed instantly. It was almost strange to watch. Just an hour ago, I was invisible. Now suddenly, everyone was watching me pack my things. Everyone was whispering. Everyone was wondering why. I didn't try to explain. I didn't owe anyone a dramatic speech. I just quietly continued putting my notebooks, pens, and small personal items into my bag. The silence was louder than all the noise I had endured for months. Sam was the first to speak again. He tried to joke, maybe to soften the moment. Come on, he said, his voice shaky. You're not seriously leaving. We're just stressed lately. It'll get better. I zipped my bag slowly and said, It hasn't gotten better in a long time. He swallowed hard. I didn't know you felt this bad. I nodded gently. That's the problem, Sam. No one knew. No one asked. He looked down, face tired. Yeah, maybe you're right. Julia approached next. But unlike Sam, she didn't joke. Her tone was defensive, almost irritated. Why are you doing this? She asked. You could have told us if something was wrong. I looked at her calmly. I tried. Many times. She frowned. No, you didn't. I met her eyes softly. Julia, remember last week when I told you I'm a little overwhelmed today? And you said, we're all tired. Just do it. Her face stiffened. She looked away. I continued in a gentle tone. And remember when you told our boss that I agreed to finish the entire client report? I didn't agree to that. You only gave me half. Her cheeks flushed pink. I didn't want to embarrass her, but I couldn't protect her feelings anymore. She whispered, I didn't think it would affect you like that. I smiled sadly. That's because you didn't think about me at all. Her breath caught. She had no defense. For the first time, she understood. People from other departments slowly approached my desk. Some said, I didn't know you were leaving. Others said, you were always so helpful. A few said, we'll miss you. Strangely, those were the only words that didn't hurt, because at least they were honest. But the truth was clear. It took my leaving for them to finally see me. Around noon, Mr. Collins called an unexpected team meeting. Everyone gathered, confused. I sat quietly near the corner of the table, the same place where I had sat during countless meetings. This time, the air felt different. Mr. Collins stood at the front, looking unusually serious. He began, "I want to talk about something important, something we should have noticed earlier." Everyone exchanged glances. He continued, "One of our team members has been carrying more work than all of us realized. She has supported us, helped us, and taken on responsibilities that weren't hers." Eyes slowly turned toward me. My chest tightened. Mr. Collins took a breath. "And because we failed to support her, we are losing her." People murmured. Julia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Sam stared at the table. The room was thick with guilt. He continued, "Her resignation is a reminder that we must listen to each other, ask each other how we're doing, share responsibilities fairly." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't blame anyone directly. But everyone in that room felt the weight of his words. I felt it too, not as revenge or satisfaction, but as a quiet validation. For the first time, my pain was recognized publicly. After the meeting, several coworkers came up to me. One said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know." Another said, "If you ever need a reference, I'll be here." Another whispered, "You didn't deserve what happened." I thanked each of them politely. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was simply done. Before I left the building for the last time, I took one final walk around the office. I looked at the desks, the chairs, the computers, the places where I had worked late at night, the places where I had cried silently, the places where I had given so much of myself. I walked past the break room where I had overheard hurtful comments, past the hallway where I had stood in silence after being blamed unfairly, past the window where I used to take a deep breath before facing another long day. But now, as I walked through it all, I felt light, really light. And I realized something. All these places had seen my effort, but none of them had seen my suffering. That was the truth. When I reached the lobby, Mr. Collins followed me to the door. He said quietly, "If you ever want to come back, just call me." I gave him a gentle smile. "Thank you," I said, "but I need a new beginning." He nodded slowly. "I understand. And I'm truly sorry." I believed him, but I also knew I couldn't return. Some places don't deserve the pieces of you they took for granted. I stepped outside. The sun was warm. The air smelled fresh. For the first time in months, I felt alive. But the story wasn't over yet, because what happened after I left, the calls, the messages, the apologies, showed me something I never expected. Life after quitting felt unreal at first. The next morning, I woke up at 7:30 a.m. by habit. My body was used to the routine, but instead of rushing out of bed, I just lay there and stared at the ceiling for a moment. No meetings, no urgent emails, no unfinished tasks hanging over my head. Just quiet. I made breakfast slowly, eggs, toast, and a cup of warm tea. And for the first time in years, I tasted my food instead of swallowing it in a hurry. I sat by my window and watched people walking by on the street, dressed for work, rushing to catch buses or holding coffee cups tightly. And then it hit me. I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to pretend to be okay. I didn't have to carry a weight that wasn't mine. It felt peaceful, but also strange. Quitting a job isn't just leaving a building. It's leaving a chapter of your life. But I didn't regret it. Around noon that day, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't expected. Sam. I hesitated for a moment, then picked up. His voice was softer than usual. Hey, can we talk? I kept my tone calm. Sure. What's going on? He sighed. The office feels different without you. Really different. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Maybe that's a good thing. There was a pause. Then he said something surprising. I talked to Mr. Collins this morning. He said losing you was his mistake. My heart clenched a little, but I said nothing. Sam continued, and I realized something too. You always helped me. You helped all of us. But I didn't help you. Not even once. His honesty warmed me, gently. I replied softly, It's okay, Sam. We all learn at different times. No, he said. I want to say this properly. I'm sorry. I should have been there for you. His words weren't perfect, but they were sincere. And that was enough. We ended the call on a gentle note, not as coworkers anymore, but as people who finally understood each other. A few minutes later, another message appeared. This time from Julia. That surprised me even more. She wrote, I'm sorry for everything. I didn't realize how my actions affected you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I stared at the message for a long moment. A few days earlier, those words might have felt too late, but now they just felt human. I replied, Thank you. I appreciate it. Nothing more. Nothing less. Forgiveness doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes it just means letting go. But the message that stayed with me the most came later that evening, from Mr. Collins himself. It was a long message, but one part made my chest tighten. I didn't see you clearly until you were gone. Your work, your quiet strength, your dedication. I took it for granted, and I'm sorry. The team misses you deeply. I read the message twice, slowly. Then I breathed in deeply and typed, Thank you. I'm grateful for the chance I had there. But it's time for me to rest and start fresh. His reply was quick. If you ever need anything at all, just let me know. I placed my phone down and closed my eyes for a moment. That simple apology, coming from the person who had overlooked me the most, felt like the final piece I needed. Not to return, but to finally move forward without regret. In the days that followed, something unexpected happened. People from the office reached out one by one. Some said, You inspired me to set boundaries. Others said, I didn't realize you were struggling. I'm sorry. A few even said, I'm thinking about quitting too, to take care of myself. It surprised me. I never wanted to be an example. I just wanted peace. But sometimes, when one person finally stands up for themselves, it gives others permission to do the same. One afternoon, I sat at a cafe near my apartment. A warm cup of coffee in front of me. Soft music playing in the background. Sunlight touching the side of my face. I opened my journal and wrote, "I didn't quit because I was weak. I quit because I was finally strong enough to choose myself." I smiled at the words. They felt true. They felt right. Leaving that job didn't break me. It healed me. It showed me what I deserved, what I needed, what I had ignored for too long. And most importantly, it reminded me that self-respect is not negotiable. But I wasn't done healing yet. The real resolution, the moment everything came full circle, happened a week later when someone unexpected visited me. A moment that changed how I saw my own worth forever. A week after I left the company, I was beginning to feel a new kind of quiet inside me. Not the empty silence of exhaustion, but the peaceful silence of recovery. I was cooking dinner that evening, simple pasta with vegetables, when I heard a soft knock at my door. It startled me. I wasn't expecting anyone. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked to the door, wondering who it could be. When I opened it, I froze for a second. Standing there was Mr. Collins, my old boss. He wasn't wearing his usual confident expression. His shoulders looked lower, his face tired, almost humble. He gave me a small, polite smile. "Hi," he said quietly. "Can we talk for a moment?" I hesitated. He must have sensed it, because he quickly added, "I won't take much of your time. I just wanted to see you, to say something in person." His voice wasn't firm or managerial. It was soft, human. So I nodded and said, "Sure. Come in." He stepped inside carefully, almost nervously, as if he was entering a space he didn't want to disturb. I gestured toward the small dining table, and we both sat down. He looked around my apartment with gentle eyes. "It's peaceful here," he said. I smiled softly. "It is." There was a brief silence before he exhaled deeply, like he was gathering courage. And then he said something I never expected to hear from him. "I failed you." The words fell heavily between us. He continued before I could reply. "I failed as your manager. I didn't listen. I didn't notice the signs. And when you needed support the most, I did the opposite." His voice cracked just a little. Not dramatically, just enough to show honesty. "I didn't realize how much you were holding together until we lost you." I breathed out slowly. "I tried to say something," I said quietly. "But every time, it felt like nobody wanted to hear it." He nodded. "I know. And that's what hurts me the most. You were speaking, but we weren't listening." His eyes softened with remorse. "I always thought you were strong because you never complained. I never stopped to think that maybe the reason you didn't complain was because you didn't feel safe enough to do so." Those words touched something deep inside me. He wasn't just apologizing for the workload. He was apologizing for the silence, for the invisibility, for the emotional weight I carried alone. He cleared his throat and continued. "I came here because I wanted you to see that your absence changed us. People talk more now. We check in on each other. Julia, she's been different too. I think your leaving opened her eyes more than anything else. I nodded gently. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. And I also came, he added, because I wanted to tell you something important. He leaned forward slightly. You weren't replaceable. For a moment, my breath caught. You were the heart of that team, and we didn't realize it until you were gone. I looked down, blinking slowly. It felt strange to hear these words out loud. Words I had desperately needed months ago. He continued softly. I don't expect you to come back. I just wanted you to know your work mattered. You mattered. My eyes warmed and I whispered, "Thank you." Not because I wanted validation, but because the words felt like a final piece falling into place. The wound inside me wasn't fully healed, but it was closing. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then he said gently, "Are you doing okay?" I nodded. "I'm better. I'm resting." "I'm glad," he said with a warm smile. "You deserve that." Before leaving, he paused by the door. "If you ever need a recommendation, a job lead, or even just someone to talk to, call me. Not as your boss, but as someone who respects what you went through." I nodded, touched by the sincerity. "Thank you," I said. "Truly." He nodded back, stepped outside, and the door closed softly behind him. After he left, I stood in the quiet hallway of my apartment, holding the doorknob gently. I felt lighter, clearer, stronger, not because someone apologized, but because I finally understood something important. My worth wasn't something others could decide. It was something I had to believe for myself. And quitting wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new one. One where I put myself first. One where I set boundaries. One where I no longer waited for permission to protect my own well-being. I walked back to the kitchen, finished cooking my dinner, and sat by the window. The city lights shimmered softly outside. I whispered to myself, "You made the right choice." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it completely. In the weeks that followed, something gentle and unexpected began to grow inside me. It wasn't relief. I had already felt that. It wasn't pride, although maybe I deserved a little of that too. It was clarity, a clear understanding of myself, of my limits, and of what I needed to live a healthy life. For the first time in years, I woke up without dread. I went to sleep without unfinished tasks weighing on my chest. I spent time reading, cooking slowly, walking outside, reconnecting with friends. I even started exploring new job opportunities, ones that valued balance, fairness, and communication. Ones where kindness wasn't seen as weakness. Ones where I could grow without breaking myself in the process. I realized something that took me far too long to learn. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a place that refuses to see you. And once you walk away, once you choose yourself, once you decide you deserve better, your world starts to open again. I didn't quit to punish anyone. I didn't quit to make a statement. I quit because my heart was tired, and my mind needed peace, and my well-being mattered more than a job title or a paycheck. Looking back now, I'm grateful, not for the pain, but for the lesson it taught me. I learned that being quiet doesn't mean being okay. I learned that you can be the hardest worker in a room and still feel invisible. I learned that kindness must include yourself. And I learned that leaving isn't weakness. It's wisdom. As I sit here by my window, watching the evening sky turn orange and soft, I feel proud of the person I'm becoming. Someone stronger. Someone clearer. Someone who finally knows her worth. And now, I want to ask you something, to make you reflect on your own story. Have you ever stayed somewhere too long, just because you hoped things would get better? Tell me in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, your stories, and the moments when you found the courage to choose yourself.